So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sharon Whiteman. It's my great pleasure and privilege to be here every week with Diana Hunter and Gary Knapp, who you've just seen on camera. And we love bringing this call to Australasia, Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore and the globe. We're very passionate about this technology. We're passionate about the whole message around this great company called Manatech. Now today our guest speaker is Diana Hunter, and she's got an associate diploma in medical records administration, certificate of nutrition and health at my university, and advanced certificate in glycobiology out of ProEvity. She started her career as an allied health professional and was educated in the fundamentals of medicine and medical science at Cumberland College of Health Sciences in Sydney. She first learned about nutrition and health while recovering from her own personal health challenge and has studied nutritional health over the past 30 years. Diana has a passion for educating and supporting others in experiencing optimal well-being. And I'd like to add to that, like, she's one of the most profound educators in this technology and other technology, but hear about nutritional glycans, you really want to have your notebook and really listen to what Diana has said. She put extensive research in developing this presentation. And Diana, we're so grateful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Sharon, and thank you for that very kind introduction. And a warm welcome to everyone. I'm delighted to be here. As Sharon said, I'm very passionate about this subject of nutritional glycans and what that offers our health and well-being. I have had a 35-year career in either allied health or complementary health, and about 20 years ago I was introduced to this technology as a result of my own health journey, and it turned my health around. So I became very active in sharing about these nutritional technology with others to help them in their health and well-being. So for this presentation, I'm going to start by covering some of the basics about our health, step through the science in regard to nutritional glycans and how they work in our body. And I've also invited some very special guest speakers to share with us their personal story of what's happened for them in their life, in their health, when they've added these nutritional glycans into their diet. And I'd like to start there with one of our guest speakers to share her experience. Just see if I can get that to click through. In regard to adding these nutritional glycans into her life, and that is Leine. So Leine, could you just switch on your video back down in that bottom panel if you just click on that link again? There you are.
Right. Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks for joining us, Leine.
And hello to all the other participants and Sharon. It's a great morning to be here, and it's a beautiful morning down here, and it looks like it is every week today. It is lovely to be here and to share just a tiny bit, because if I was to share all that's happened in our lives, I'd be sharing all day. But what I'd love to share with you is actually the person that introduced me to Manatech was my daughter, Nicole Quirin, and her story is quite unique. She was very young at the time. She was in her 20s, and as most 20-year-olds, they don't think that they require anything for health. They feel their vitality's up, they don't really see a need. But Nicole was wise enough to listen to the information and think, well, you know, that sounds really like the last piece, the health puzzle that I've been looking for so many of our families. So she wanted to introduce it to everybody she loved and cared about. And I'm very thankful that she introduced it to us. But at the time, Nicole had been married for several years, and they had been probably actively trying for a baby for at least 3 of those years. And so they were getting to the end of the tether where they were thinking, I think we need to look at medical help. But she'd gone on to these glyconutrients at the end of 99, and by the time, and you know, it's sort of the year ticked around, and she was using, I think at the time she was using our glycans, our vitamins and minerals, and something for her endocrine system through the products. And she was just doing that as a maintenance thing. But suddenly, out of the blue, she found that she was pregnant. And as we often talk about with glycans, cells need to communicate to each other, and a sperm cell and an egg cell are no different. they need to be able to recognise and identify and talk to each other. So she gave birth to her first baby, you know, that following year in the year 2000. So we all rejoiced at that. But it was quite interesting when she had the baby, because one of the things leading up to having the baby, when I suppose she was going through puberty, she put on a little bit of weight and got some stretch marks. So she'd actually asked her doctor whether or not she would suffer from stretch marks. And he said, well, yes, you're obviously going to, because you've got nice dark skin and you've also already got them from when you put on a little bit of weight. So, yeah, you're definitely going to suffer from stretch marks. And interestingly enough, throughout the pregnancy, she really upped the amount of glycans she took, and she never got a single stretch mark, which was wonderful. And then when she was in hospital, it was really interesting, because both my girls, when they've had babies and have been supported in this way, have remarked to me that ours were the only babies that weren't crying for milk. They weren't hungry. They were getting it very, very quickly. Nicole actually was asked, they were going to take the baby down after she'd had her to express the colostrum, which is, they often refer to it as the first milk, but it's actually made in the blood. And they gave her a couple of vials and they asked her to see if she could express. And then the husband went and got another couple, and they came back and they were just astounded at how much she'd ended up with, these 4 vials. And they said, no, stop, you don't need any more. And yet there was a poor woman opposite her that was on a pump all night that couldn't get a single vial filled. Some of these differences are some of the things that we see. And she was known in that hospital as the colostrum lady. So we know that's, you know, that's a really healthful thing. And the other thing was that then she said to a nurse something about her milk coming in, and the nurse said, oh, it couldn't be coming in this early. But it had. So they had very contented little babies, my girls, when they were on these nutrients. And one of the things we found too with babies was, many of you know about one of our granddaughters was critically ill when she was about 8.5 months old from our other daughter, our youngest daughter, Marnie, her daughter. And at the time, we were talking to a doctor from over in Canada, and he was very helpful with all the information that he had and could pass on to us. And he was talking to us one day, and I was talking about the amount to give an 8.5-month-old baby. What should I worry about? And he said, you don't have to worry. There's no, you know, you can't overload them with it. And he said there's actually a tablespoon of these new 5 of the 8 glycans in every breastfeed, a tablespoonful. So therefore, me putting, us putting a teaspoon in a bottle is not, you know, that's quite fine. Because many people look at it like a medication and they think they can overdose, but you can't. Sometimes you've got problems where the body just requires a whole lot more. And so as Nicole's first child was growing up, pardon me, you're the first person I've talked to today, there you go. As Shaquille was growing up, around about 8 months, she started to develop an itchy, sore, red patch over on her shoulder. And Nicole tried all sorts of things and nothing worked, and it seemed to be spreading. So I just mentioned one day, maybe she requires one of the glycans that are not in the 5 from mother's breast milk. And so she tried giving her a mixture of that in breast milk, and overnight that cleared up, which was a great thing. So as you can hear, we sort of reach for this, whether it's in the gel form, whether it's in the powder form, we reach for it as the very first place to go and try out to see if we can get a result. Over the years, with that, Nicole went on and had another child, but further down the track, she found that she was just not feeling very well. And she thought, gee, Mum, if I'm not pregnant, there's something really wrong. And I said, well, you better go and get checked out, honey. And she went off to the doctor and told him her symptoms, and he sent her off for a test. And it was a test for what they often refer to as an autoimmune disease, but it was a very severe problem that he was testing her for. And so she went for the test, and then she was called back in, and he was very concerned because the test it was the type of test that they drop some sort of thing of blood through a suspension, and they time how long it takes to get to the bottom. And it came in at 90. Now, a good result for that is around about 15, I think. And so he said, look, go home for 2 weeks. I want you to come back and have that test again. But he was quite concerned because what he was looking at was something that could send her blind. And so she was very concerned too. And so she went home, and he said, just do as much as you can to be as healthy as you can for the next 2 weeks, and we'll retake that test. And they did. And he called her in and he said, well, I just really can't understand this test, because, of course, she went home and she got stuck into her support, her nutritional support on every level. And when she went back for the next lot of results, she found that it was 14, which was perfect. And he said, I was so concerned about this test that I had them rerun the original one. I thought they must have got it wrong. But he said it still came in at 90. So in that 2 weeks of really supporting her body, because we never know what we're going to come across or what's going to trigger something, she was able to regain whatever was happening in her body and get back to a healthy level. So throughout her life, even though she didn't think she needed it, we don't always know when we need nutritional support. It's a daily event. And quite frankly, in our family, you get some that want to take that daily event and really back up their health. And then you have the ones, I have a son who just doesn't like listening at all.
I might have to close you out there, sorry, because I'm sure you could relate for half an hour all the family stories, but I'm under a bit of a time constraint here. But how fantastic for to be able to have something that delivers such wonderful health benefits and health choices for your entire family. I'm sure those stories of your family and your daughter particularly, and your daughter's children, have really helped some of the listeners today. Leine, thank you so much for taking the time.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me on today.
And I do need to read this disclaimer here. Manatech doesn't just endorse the products to cure any disease or for replacement of doctor's care, but as you can hear, complementary and very, very supportive to our health, adding these nutrients in. And so now I'm going to, you can turn your, thanks, Vivian. So now I'm going to start to explain why you're hearing such kind of health results, how that's working within our body. And we're going to start at the very basics. And essentially our body is made up of cells. The cells are the basic building block of our body. And the scientists estimate somewhere between 40 and 70 trillion cells in our body. And there's two main things that our cells need to be able to do on a constant basis. One is to communicate. They need to talk to each other about need and function. And the other is to replicate. They need to replace themselves. And again, the scientists estimate about 220 billion new cells every single day are produced. And that's about 9 billion as we're joined together for these 45 minutes to an hour. So if the cell is the basic building block of our body, it begs the question, what are our cells made up of? And the answer, of course, is 100% nutrition. What is the raw material that you're putting into your body every day to nourish your cells? It's the food we eat, what we choose to drink, and the air we breathe, isn't it? So I'm not talking about at a cellular level the macronutrients. The macronutrients are your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins. I'm talking about what they break down to, the micronutrients, amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins and minerals, phytochemicals. And today we're focusing on a specific, unique, independent category of nutrition in the body, nutritional glycans. So this is a basic graphic of a cell. And you can see here that our cells are sort of like little bodies. They have organs. You can see some of them labelled here. They also have systems. They have a respiratory system, an elimination system, and a reproductive system. So of the organs labelled here on this cell, which do you think is the communication centre of the cell? If you want to have a go in the chat box there. You know, which do you think of these organs is the communication centre of the cell? The scientists used to think it was the nucleus, and the nucleus contains our RNA and our DNA material. But what they discovered when they were able to take the nucleus out of the cell is that all the functions of the cell kept on occurring. It wasn't able to replicate itself. Eventually it died because it didn't have its RNA and DNA, but all the cellular function continued to occur. And what they discovered is that the communication center of the cell is actually on the cell surface membrane. And you can see the cell surface membrane here in this graphic. It's actually a fatty acid layer. And through the cell surface membrane are these little antenna-like structures. And they're either made up of a protein chain with a sugar chain attached or a fatty acid with a sugar chain attached. So they're called a glycoprotein or a glycolipid. And these form what are known as receptor sites, communication sites on the cell surface. Now, of the 200 odd carbohydrates in nature, only 8 of them are known to have this communication function on the cell surface, and they are called nutritional glycans. So what happens is the cells come up, rub up against each other and pass information like a coded language from these cellular antennae. And for those of you who are science-minded, this organ in the cell here called the Golgi apparatus is the key organ within the cell in which these protein and glycan structures are put together and pushed up through the cell surface membrane. Now, this is one of the leading areas of scientific research on our planet today, in all areas of scientific research. And this particular study here was done out of the University of California in 2011, and it's in the area of anthropology. And through their research, they concluded that as a result of 3 billion years of evolution of life on Earth, we've ended up that every single living cell is coated with this complex array of cell surface glycans. And they concluded that they are as essential for life as having a DNA genetic code. So you've probably heard of the genome project where they're identifying the genes within the cell. We now have a glycome project identifying these cell surface glycans. Now, this is a graphic representation of our cells communicating with each other. This photo on the right is a picture of a living cell, and this complex array here, this forest-like structure, are the cell surface glycans. And this, you know, the scientists, this is an electron microscope photo, and before the electron microscope was invented, they weren't able to even see these glycan structures on the cell surface. So what do our cells need to communicate? Well, the answer is absolutely everything. All structure and all function is communicated by these cell surface glycans. Our cells need to communicate about nutrition, how much it needs, where it needs it, when it needs it. It needs to communicate about, it needs to communicate about regulation of perhaps hormones, balancing blood pressure, body temperature, is all communicated again by these glycan structures. Our cells need to detoxify and cleanse. Again, this needs to be communicated. Sometimes we're extending ourselves and we need extra support, and our cells need to be able to say, hey, I need extra support here. Again, the glycans are involved in this communication process. And then identification. So we're talking about the immune system here. Our body needs to be able to recognize ourself and protect it, and recognize non-self, perhaps a cancer cell or a virus or a bacteria, and launch the immune system to deal with it. And this is done by these glycan receptors or glycan structures on the cell surface membrane. This right here is core to the message that I'm hoping to impart today. And it's that our cells are constantly reading signals. So this is another graphic of our cells. This here is the cell surface membrane. This is the receptor site with the glycan sugar receptors on the surface of that receptor. And our cells have constantly reading signals passing by. So it could be a hormone or an enzyme or a vitamin and mineral. It could be another cell, a foreign invader, a virus, bacteria, cancer cell, or it could be one of our own cells passing by and communicating need or function. And this is all communicated and received by these glycan receptors. Now, the next part of this I need to attribute to a cellular biologist, Dr. Bruce Lipton. Some of you may have heard of him. He's also known as the father of epigenetics. And was watching a video presentation of his over the last 12 months. And he explained that when the scientists are able to take these glycan or remove these glycan receptors from the cell surface, what do you think happens? Well, what happens is all cellular action and cellular response discontinues, stops. So normally when a signal happens, then the response of the cell is some form of cellular action. When these glycans are removed, cellular action ceases. So you can see through this how vital, how foundational, how fundamental they are to cellular response. Now, his work was in the area of gene expression. And prior to his work, it was thought that our genes predetermined our health. And we receive our genetic material from our parents or through our ancestral line, and that predetermined our health. We were kind of a victim of our genes. But through Dr. Lipton's work, he determined that our genes that so much predetermined our health, it's the signals that the cell is receiving that is determining the response of our cells. So lifestyle factors, nutrition, which is what we're focusing on today, and our mindset, our attitude. These are all signals to the cell that are received by these glycan receptors, and then the cell responds with some form of cellular action or in this case, genetic expression. So that's how, that's some clues as to why we're getting shifts in the health that you heard from Leine in response to improved nutrition that's delivered into the body. Now, how important are these glycans really? Well, I have 4 examples here. Glycans are involved in managing inflammation and infection in the body. So this here is the graphic of a blood vessel, and here is an expression of inflammation or infection in the tissue outside of the blood vessel. So what happens when there's an infection is these little structures here, the selectins, they pull out the white blood cell out into the tissue here to address that inflammation or infection. And that's where they're important to, managing this in the body. So we've got...
That's the webinar I wanted to listen to.
Okay, so we've got someone arrived here on the, I'm not sure it is, it's listed as James Hannon. If you could mute your video and mute your sound, you've actually come in on the panelist pin. It's down in the bottom box there of the screen. Yep, that's perfect. Thank you very much. The other area where our glycans are very involved in cellular function is in our blood groups. So here I've got listed A, O, and B blood group. And this here is like the nutritional expression of our blood groups. And you can see that to this point here, they're all exactly the same, except that A blood group has a completely unique and different glycan structure attached at the end of the glycan chain, and B blood group has a different glycan attached to the end of the glycan chain. So what happens when we receive the incorrect blood group? All hell breaks loose, doesn't it? Our body has an immune response, And that is because these glycan structures are rubbing up, or the cells are rubbing up against this and going, oh, that doesn't belong here. I need to eliminate that. In regard to our hormones, some of our hormones, and you heard there from Leine, some of the benefits in hormonal health, some of our hormones are actually glycoproteins in and of themselves. So thyroid stimulating hormone is a glycoprotein. You've probably heard of many people with thyroid issues these days. Luteinizing hormone, now that's a hormone involved in ovulation, is a glycoprotein. So how many women do you know who want to make sure they've got healthy luteinizing hormone, who are actually wanting to get pregnant? And then again, you heard via Leine's story this morning that human mother's breast milk contains 5 of the 8 nutritional glycans. Now, no one food on our entire planet contains all 8 glycans. They're spread across the whole range of food on our planet. But human mother's breast milk contains 5. And I think this speaks tremendous amount as to nature's design, wanting to deliver these glycans at the beginning of life. And certainly there's extensive research now validating the value of breastfeeding babies to their long-term immune health. So at this point, I'd like to welcome our second guest speaker to share his story of what's happened when he's added these glycans in. And we have Stuart Munro. So Stuart, if you could unmute and open your video. Awesome. Thank you very much. Welcome. Thanks for taking time. I know you're on a mission with family this morning, so appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries, Diana. Thanks for actually inviting me on today. It is a busy morning with children's sport and what have you. But my journey with the nutritional glycans, it started probably a bit over 10 years ago. But to start my whole story, I started developing a lot of joint issues early in age, around about 16, 17 years of age. And over the years, it's been quite debilitating. And I've been on quite a cocktail of pharmaceutical drugs over the years, anything from chemo drugs to anti-inflammatory suppositories, which aren't a lot of fun. I used to pop Panadine Forte like Tic Tacs just to get by each day, to the fact where now I'm allergic to codeine. But yeah, things got pretty bad. I mean, the worst it probably got was when my eldest was born. He's 14 now. But when he was born, I physically couldn't nurse him. I couldn't hold him. I didn't have the strength to hold him. I just couldn't do the things that new fathers should be able to do. I had trouble walking. Life sucked, really. So I had some pretty dark days, but it was actually my mum that came across these incredible products and told me that she'd really like me to start taking them because the science just makes sense on it. And I flatly refused because I'd been down the natural path before and nothing had ever worked for me. But like all good mothers, she kept at me, kept chewing away at me until I finally caved in and started taking these nutritional glycans. And it was mainly just to keep her quiet, to be honest. But I started taking them, and I was taking quite a bit of it to start with. And around the 7-month mark, I'd noticed a big enough change in myself that I started weaning myself off the pharmaceuticals that I was on, and basically got to the stage where now I'm pain-free, drug-free, and I've got my life back. I mean, I go snow skiing all around the world. I'm back playing soccer. I mean, I haven't played soccer since I was 16. And I'm 49 now, and I'm playing my 5th season back on the park, and that's something I never in my wildest dreams would have thought I'd be able to do again. Walking was one thing, but actually running around a football pitch, that's just blows me away. And I do a lot of fishing. If anyone that knows me on Facebook sees that I do a fair bit of fishing, and I go out catching anything from little brim out to big marlin and shark. So it's quite taxing on the body, and I would not be able to do it without these incredible products. It's just given me my life back, and I'm living it to the fullest. Absolutely love them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stuart. What an awesome result. And oh, how wonderful to get your life back in that way after, such a challenged teenagehood.
Yeah. It's, I mean, as you can imagine, that it got pretty dark where, the darkest of dark, I won't go right into that, but leave your imagination up to that. But, totally giving my life back. I just love it.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm sure that's added value to people on the call. Great to have you here, and great that the light's back in your life. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yep. It's awesome.
Thank you, Stuart.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm hoping that it makes sense that we all need these glycans in our diet, and hearing, the life-giving results that people receive when they do have them in their diet. So the question is, where do I get them? Well, we should be getting them from our food. But unfortunately, I rarely get any arguments these days that the quality of our food is diminishing and continuing to diminish. And there's several factors behind this. Our food has been grown over and over on the same soils without adequate replenishment of the broad spectrum of nutrients that needs to be in the soil if it's going to be in the produce. We're picking our produce green before it's ripened on the vine. And it's in the ripening that some of the key nutrients go into the produce. So we're not receiving that in our food. And then we're processing our food and further denaturing it. And it's so much so that leading nutritional experts are now saying one of the most dangerous places for our health is the local supermarket because of all the denatured food. And then in addition to that, we're all faced with increasing toxic load on our planet. You may or may not be aware that, but since the 1930s and 1940s, we've launched over 100,000 chemicals into our environment that didn't exist before that time. Our bodies aren't designed to live with those toxins. It just copes with the toxins or tries to cope with the toxins. And if you think you're escaping exposure, you need to think again. All animals tested, humans, fish, they've found chemicals in the tissue. And as a result of food quality decline and toxic load, there's evidence that our immune system isn't what it used to be. It's deteriorated in its function by about 30% in the last 20 years, and there's evidence it's continuing to decline by 3 to 5% a year. So, what are we going to do? If our food isn't enough, then we need to look to nutritional supplementation. And if you have any question about the evidence of declining nutrition in our food, here's some scientific research. As far back as 1994, it was shown that 6 of the 8 glycans, these 8 essential glycans, were already deficient in our modern diet. Some studies into antioxidants, which help protect our cells from damage and degeneration. Back in 1995, there was a study done, and as a result, the recommendation was to eat 5 to 7 fruits and vegetables every day. You've probably heard of that recommendation. Well, that study was repeated in 2012, so about 17 years later, and as a result of the nutritional decline in the produce, they came out and said, well, we think you should be eating 7 to 14 fruits and vegetables today to get the same amount of antioxidant. It's a completely ludicrous recommendation to the general population. No one is going to do that. Not even the most committed vegan is going to eat 14 fruits and vegetables a day, every day. Studies done in vitamins back in 2002, so 17 years ago, based on those studies in the average diet of adults. The American Medical Association, they are a very conservative medical body. They came out and published in their journal that pending strong evidence of effectiveness of randomized trials, it appears prudent for all adults to take vitamin supplements. That's a huge statement. And now we have the food pyramid from some of the leading medical institutions. Harvard University has nutritional supplements in addition as part of their food pyramid. And many friends of mine are very happy that wine is also included in the food pyramid in moderation. So if we're going to supplement, then it's buyer beware, because not all nutritional supplements are actually natural. In fact, the majority of them are synthetic. And in this example of vitamins and minerals, 95% of vitamins and minerals on the market are synthetically manufactured. And they're primarily manufactured as a byproduct of the petroleum industry. And minerals are often just ground up rocks or coral. And it's not the way our body's meant to get nutrition, which is from food. So any form of intelligent supplementation, wherever possible, would be food sourced. It would be proven effective. When you put it in your body, actually get a result. You know it's safe. You know you can take it and it's safe. It's safe alongside any pharmaceutical drugs that you might be needing to take. That there's science behind it and that you're guaranteed of the highest quality. That's the kind of nutrition I want to be putting in my body. And it's at this point, if you haven't already been introduced, I'd like to introduce you to Manatech. They're an international research and development company. They're actually a 25-year-old company now. And they specialize in food-derived nutritional supplements wherever possible. And they're world leaders in this area of nutritional glycan supplementation. They're open and available in about 27 countries worldwide. And they've invested more than $50 million in research over that time, ensuring the safety and the efficacy of their nutritional supplements. And they're the only company worldwide that have produced a plant-based supplement of these 8 known nutritional glycans. It's called Ambrotose, and it has a 22-year proven track record. It truly is the foundation for cellular communication in our body. And in the 20 years that I've been involved in the company, I've seen incredible, heartwarming and extraordinary health results for people when they've added it into the diet. You've heard a couple of those already today. But in addition to that, the company have done the science. And the science has validated that when you add these nutritional glycans into your diet, it increases immune health. It supports this cellular communication process that we've been speaking about. It improves brain function, concentration, memory, reaction time. It lifts and supports mood. Now, who doesn't need that these days with the level of stress that we're under? And improves and promotes digestion. And we're hearing more and more about the importance of digestion these days in regard to overall health and overall immunity. And as science moves on, more scientific research is done, and there was a study done in the last couple of years showing that when people added these glycans into their diet, it assisted and improved the response to bacterial vaccines. And we're going to see more and more scientific validation of the value of glycans as the years progress. But it's time to take another break here and have our final guest speaker share her story with you of what happened in her life, in her health, when she added these nutritional glycans into her diet. And that is Anne Everingham. So Anne, if you could just switch on your video and your audio. There you are. Welcome, Anne.
Hello, Diana, and everyone else. It's just wonderful what you do here. It's such a clear and fantastic description of these products. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share about these products. I'm so passionate about them because they really have transformed my life. It's wonderful. Listening to you, it really makes me think back to something that I became aware of after getting results through this nutrition, and I suspect had played into my health struggles. My sister and I were both born very soon after the Second World War to a wonderful father. He had just experienced 3.5 years of starvation in Changi POW camp. And I wonder often if that didn't play into the fact that my sister and I had a lot of health struggles. Nobody but immediate family would probably be aware of that, because we also had the sort of attitude to life that our parents had, and you had, made things look good at all counts, and you worked hard, and we did all of that. But I would have to say that we both suffered from a lot of chronic health problems. from a young age, right through. All sorts of childhood illnesses and surgeries, and in my case, particularly respiratory problems, tiredness and mood swings and things, even as a teenager, what I'd call a low mood. I married young. I had 3 children. It wasn't easy. I really struggled for energy through those years, and caught a lot of things that didn't help, like one of those viruses they call the kissing disease. So that left me with a fair bit of exhaustion. Following that, I got a mosquito-borne virus as well, which gives you very painful joints. I had underactive thyroid problem, which you mentioned, Diana, problems with that sort of thing. And I was always suffering from just a chronic state of fatigue and exhaustion. And I would get respiratory plants in particular constantly. I can remember nights, many, many nights, propped up on pillows, coughing my heart out, coughing like you felt as if your internal organs were going to come up because you were so extremely, coughing madly. Antibiotics were just part of my life far too frequently. And of course that really upset my gut and all those other nasty things that one can get when they're taking too many antibiotics. And then in 2009, I was diagnosed with breast problems, which required radical surgery and followed by chemotherapy, which is probably my lowest point. After the second dose of that, my immune system basically shut down, and I was hospitalised with 2 pretty life-threatening problems. But I, pulled out of that and went on with this treatment. And when that was drawing to a close, friends came to visit one day and asked me how I was. And very unlike me to admit that anything was wrong. But I said, well, I've got terrible pains in my hands and feet that I've been told are a side effect of this drug that they want me to take for years. And I have to do something about my immune system. That had twigged with me that was going to be the answer to whether my life went on for a lot longer or went on with any quality. And they said to me just so absolutely confidently, Manatech, that's your answer, nutritional glycans. So I looked into it, and I was very fortunate to be, my account was set up underneath one of our most knowledgeable associates. And I would encourage anybody who decides to take this jump of faith to really take the advice and help that you will get from others in the company. And she advised me to the state of health that, I just never imagined I would have. And that did require taking more than recommended daily doses of the glycans. And I took the hormonal support, and I take the vitamins and minerals and the antioxidants and, of course, the probiotics. But I really was blown away by what my body has been able to achieve in the last 10 years with these nutrients that it was not able to achieve with years of prescribed medications and what I would have always considered to be a very good diet. I now take no medications at all. My husband went on to the products at the same time for prevention. We're 70 and 76. Neither of us take any medications. The last time I had a series of blood tests and blood pressure and all of those things, they told me that I had the results of a 20-year-old, which is bizarre, but that's what can happen. So I just urge anybody who is listening to this and considering this to take the step and to realise that not all nutritional supplements are equal, as Diana explained. And don't forget that old adage that if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. There is an expense involved, but you need also to remember that your health, you really need to regard it not as an expense, but as an investment. And I think this is the best investment I've ever made. My two daughters cannot believe the change in their mother. I know it's 8 years since I've had an antibiotic. I would be having them 5-6 times a year. What can I say? I just think that, and I know that this is the reason, because we eat very well, but we always did. So I recommend it, absolutely. And thank you, Diana and Sharon and Gary, for putting these calls on. They're so helpful for people.
Thank you, Anne. And what a wonderful story of recovery. I'm sure that gives people hope, even people, you know, like Stuart was saying, in the darkest days, there's still hope that the body, if given the right tools, can do a recovery. And the impact that's had for you personally, but also the light that's brought into your family's life as a result of your recovery. It's wonderful.
It took me 60 years to sort of really realise that it was my responsibility. I couldn't outsource it to other people. You know, I think, and there's so many things that affect our health, other than, you know, medications.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anne. I'm confident that's benefited the people on the call. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned, Manatech are a science company, and as science moves on, Manatech further enhance their products. And then you can turn your video off and your audio off now. And Ambrotose is no different. In the last 12 months, they've brought forward, and we have now in Australia, a new premium enhanced Ambrotose. It's called Ambrotose Life, and it has all the benefits of Ambrotose. And in addition, they've enhanced the quantity of nutritional glycans within the Ambrotose Life. There's increased mannose, galactose, and fucose, or the fucoidins, and these are the key glycans that are most utilised by the body. Now, I just wanted to highlight here the mannose. It's in a trade name called Manopol. What this is stabilised mannose. It's the world's only true ACE mannan. So ACE mannan, or mannose, is the healing component within the aloe vera plant. And many people know over the centuries the benefits of aloe vera. Well, the healing component is mannose, this nutritional glycan. And there is a stabilised form of that called ACE mannan. Manatech have the exclusive agreement with this product called Manopol. And just to give you an idea of the science, so the scientific benchmark for true ACE mannan is 1 million Daltons. It's an atomic weight. So most aloe vera products on the market are 400 to 500,000 Daltons, so they don't come anywhere near. Manatech's Manopol is 1.6 million Daltons, so it's way beyond the benchmark. It's the world's only true ACE mannan, and that's what's in our Ambrotose product and been enhanced in Ambrotose Life. The galactose has been enhanced. It is in this product the highest grade arabinogalactan, and also an exclusive agreement with the source of that arabinogalactan. So 50% of the container of Ambrotose Life is a combination of the Manopol and the arabinogalactan. There's also increased fucoidins via wakame in this product. If you Google fucoidin alone, you'll see some pretty interesting health claims. In this product is an exclusive form, a triple refined form of fucoidin. So most fucoidins on the market are refined once. You might get lucky to get it refined twice. The fucoidin in our Ambrotose product is triple refined. So it's the most nutritionally dense fucoidin that is available, and again, an exclusive agreement with Manatech. The glucosamine is well known out there in the marketplace. It's actually a nutritional glycan, and Manatech we're taking care of our vegetarian and vegan family. The glucosamine in our product is vegan friendly. Now, in addition to that, Manatech didn't stop there. And we were talking about the toxic load on our planet that we're all facing. They've added in 3 nutrients that help detoxify chemicals and heavy metals from our body. There's the aloe and modified citrus pectin and sodium alginate, which is derived from seaweed. And then they still didn't stop there, and they've created a nutritional base in the Ambrotose Life from standardized rice seed bran. Standardized rice seed bran is like a superfood. It has over 100 nutrients within it, and that is the base of the Ambrotose Life. So many of our community have transferred over to the Ambrotose Life since it's been available in the last 12 months. So talk to the person who recommended you this call to find out more about what Ambrotose Life has to offer. So as I bring this to a close, I wanted to highlight what I call our Nourish Yourself, Nourish Your Child program. Manatech call it the M5M5 Foundation. And what this is that every time one of our customers buy a product for their own self-care, Manatech on your behalf provides a nutritional supplement to a malnourished child somewhere in the world. We've got a couple of examples here of the difference this has made in the children's life and the children's health. We're currently providing about 100,000 meals or nutritional supplements a day to children throughout the world, and it converts to about 20 million servings of nutritional supplement to these children around the world. What they do is they provide a powder that's added into current feeding programs into their food. And you can see here, Aura on the left from Guatemala, the difference it's made in her life over a 12-month period. You know, it's revitalized her from a very sad, malnourished little girl to a vibrant, happy, active young girl. We have Ingrid on the right, and again, you can see the transformation over a 6-month period of having these nutrients added into her diet from a malnourished, all the signs of malnourishment there, to a very vibrant little girl. So our customers love the idea of, you know, they're taking care of their own health, but they're also automatically taking care of a child somewhere around the world. I hope I was able to impart to you the importance and the value of Ambrotose and nutritional glycans as a foundation to our well-being. Someone's put on the slide here, next best thing to breast milk, and we all know the value of that to our long-term health. So again, I do recommend that you get back to the person that recommended you to the webinar, get started on the Ambrotose, and, you know, talk to them about what the right amounts and what other nutrients might also be helpful in conjunction. And with that, you know, I believe this information comes with some sense of responsibility. It could be someone that you know, love, or care about, could benefit of being praying for, like Sharon said earlier, and that was the same for me. I was praying for solution, and this came into my hands. You know, Manatech truly are bringing to us the best of science, the balance of science and nature to support our health, our longevity, and our well-being. So with that, Sharon, I'll hand back to you, and we can complete the presentation. And
that's so very well done. Thank you so much. You're I know all the comments have been fantastic. You're such a great educator and a steward for this technology. So thank you. We want to thank everybody else for being here, giving some time towards your education. And the best thing you can do is make sure this doesn't stay a secret. The recording will be up in the archive on YouTube by probably Monday, usually, depending on my internet speed. I usually have a few fails of uploading. Good old regional Australia. And yeah, we appreciate all of you. Thanks for being here. Next week is Dr. Nugent. He's going to be focusing on immune support for the flu season, change of season that everybody's talking about all over everywhere. So everyone, thank you. Have a great Saturday, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.